On behalf of Department of Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering, University of Peradeniya, I welcome you all for this interesting webinar. So we've been having webinars throughout, and just a few days back we had one. And pretty much on the same lines, Mr. Chandana Weerabahu is going to address you today. So let me give a very quick introduction to Mr. Weerabahu. Mr. Weerabahu is presently the Director Supply Chain of Hemas Manufacturing. I think this is the third year or so. He's having almost 24 years of experience in the supply chains, from end-to-end processes like sourcing, procurement, warehousing, production planning, manufacturing, and distribution. And actually his experience goes to, although he works right now at Hemas, his experience goes back to many organizations, many multinationals, including a Fortune 500, which is Avery Dennison, and Sri Lanka, Holcim, Caltex. So those are the firms that he has experience with. And in these firms, he has been able to manage to record year-to-year great achievements, despite of the very challenging situations. Some of the situations, of course, are known to me, since he used to be my boss some years back. Mr. Weerabahu holds an MBA from University of Colombo, and from the same university he obtained his BSc, and he is a product of Wesley College, Colombo. So today, Mr. Weerabahu is going to talk to us about an interesting topic, which is next generation manufacturing. So I hope he is going to kind of mix the flavors of manufacturing, what is going to be the next generation of manufacturing, as well as manufacturing for the next generation, which is basically you, the undergrads, who is going to be the next generation stepping onto the manufacturing field. So with that, I would invite with a lot of pleasure Mr. Weerabahu to start his webinar. Over to you, Mr. Weerabahu, please.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Prasanna, for that sort of detailed introduction. So let me share the presentation. Right. Okay. Good evening. I think the students know, I mean, still you all are yet to pass out. So it's all about manufacturing. So when you hear this word next gen, it sounds a little bit modernized, or maybe a little bit technical or something like that. So as Prasanna explained, it will be definitely more about next generation manufacturing, especially about the people. That is all about you. I might not touch that much on the technology aspect, because you might have read a lot about this industry 4.0 to digitalization, all kind of things, and you have a lot of stuff available. But what I need to sort of make you understand is how you are going to sort of make this journey a success. What kind of soft skills, what kind of aspirations, what kind of maybe traits that you should have or should develop to be a good, whoever the professional you call, in the manufacturing sector. So that's my sort of focus today, because I, as Prasanna said, throughout my career, I've been working with different kind of people in different kind of organizations, multinationals to local companies, where the biggest opportunity lies with the employees or the human resource. So whatever the technology you have will not be useful if your human resource factor is not right, or else you don't have the right team. So it's all about making a right team. How am I going to be a right team member? So I'm giving you some tips, maybe some advices as an adult. Just to say that I'm 52 years old, and most of y'all are like my little bit older to my son. My son is 21, so little bit older to him. So I will most probably talk to you all saying son or daughter, whoever. But I think that's the way that I always treat the undergraduates who are coming to my factory at the Ankutwood for internships. I give all knowledge what I give to my son. So that should be the, I think, case that we as I would say matured professionals should be doing. So let me, that's about the outline. So let's see, what do we sort of, how do you evaluate ourselves? I mean, in industry, right? So when you talk to, I mean, senior level or maybe middle level or junior level professionals, employees, managers, whoever, what do they say? I mean, they will say, okay, last year profits were good, losses were down. We are very proud of the progress our team has made. Generally, this is how people talk about their businesses. I mean, we are okay. We are doing okay. We are proud about ourselves. The team is also good, likewise. Then we talk about that is your base. That was about yesterday. Now it's all about tomorrow. So what you do is generally, now based on your yesterday or last year's performance, you set your next year targets, or you call it in terms like KPIs, key performance indicators. In different functions, supply chain have their own KPIs, then sales to finance to HR, they have their own KPIs, but all the KPIs are really focused towards the organization's goals. So it's I mean, that's how those are being cascaded down. So anyway, what we do is generally we set our KPIs based on last year. We say one of these matrices, like in manufacturing, you have different matrices. I'll take one example. We'll say wastage, material wastage. Now, if we have X, next time we want to reduce it by 10%. So X minus 10%. So that is next year's target going to be like, right? So manufacturing is what? Now we'll talk about Sri Lanka. Now we know if you go through the manufacturing industry in a website or something like that, you will see a lot of different kind of manufacturing happening across the globe. But if you focus to Sri Lanka, what kind of manufacturing do you see? Now there are, I would say you see a lot of manufacturing happening, but what kind of? So if you look at most of these manufacturing which are producing raw materials, it is very much of agriculture based in Sri Lanka. For technical things, I would say a different kind of, we'll say petroleum. You don't see we manufacture, we extract right now. I mean, we're trying to do it, but so far we've not done any extraction of raw material. We'll say cars, we don't manufacture. We'll take apparel, still all the raw materials are imported. All the raw materials, including the corrugated box to poly bag, everything is imported. So we don't simply manufacture raw materials in most of the industries that we see in Sri Lanka today, apart from the agriculture, right? So if you look at, I mean, most of these products that we see, like the garments, I mean, if you take the best example is the garment industry. If you look at whatever the materials, still the materials which are going into the finished good, the labels, the button, the hanger, whatever, those are also not being manufactured using raw materials which are actually being sourced within the country. Those are being imported. And we call this a B2B, business to business kind of a operation where we don't go to the end consumer. That's why I call it the B2B business. So again, in my industry, the current industry, if you look at, I'm in a FMCG industry, fast moving consumable goods, starting with home care to personal care to, I mean, baby care products, All those things are also manufactured in Sri Lanka, but raw materials to packing materials all are imported. All are imported. So here we do it, we can say we do B2B business. What we do is we produce and we give it to the wholesalers. We produce and we give it to the, maybe to the supermarkets. And sometimes we give it to the consumers. For example, in our factory, we have some outlets in our head office, in the factory likewise, where we directly give to the consumer as well. But it's very, very few, because that's not our main business. We are a company which manufactures products and we market those through retailers and wholesalers. Right. So this is the, if you look at the entire Sri Lanka, you will see most of the industries are involved into one of these things that I discussed. So agriculture based, if I will say the fisheries or whatever, you can say that's another kind of agriculture. Now, there also, it's just you see very basic kind of sort of industries that we have, which are depending on the raw material sourced within. Right. Now, manufacturing. Okay, what is manufacturing? And manufacturing has some affiliated functions. We have to understand that. What are those affiliated functions? Generally, if you talk about co-manufacturing per se, manufacturing definitely have to have some kind of a machines. Even agriculture, you see machines, machinery is there. Then you have the machine operator. Then you have the staff, executives, industrial engineering, whatever not, who is supporting or who are part and parcel of this entire massive function. So that's what we call the manufacturing function or the manufacturing vertical, right? Then you have support services, or we can call them affiliated services. Now, maintenance team, the engineering team, HR team, warehouse, then quality assurance. Then you have new product development team. So it's a kind of a operation where you have cross-functional teams operating to get one product out as per the consumer requirement. So they are the co-manufacturing, as I explained. You have the directly involved team and machinery, plus there are other supportive functions who make sure that manufacturing function operates or it functions effectively. Because when you're in a private sector, in a company where the profit is one of the key requirements, you have to make sure your functions are effective enough. Because the investor always look at the return on investment. So it has to be profitable. To make it profitable, you need the support of rest of the functions. And also, not only that, now you have to make sure that you produce quality products. The quality has to be accepted by the consumer. For that you need a quality team, and you need HR team to have skilled people. They recruit skilled people, train skilled people. So that's how this entire organization, a manufacturing organization, operates. Now let's look at the expectation of manufacturing. I'm going to a little bit of technical stuff also here. You will hear these things, and you might have heard already when you were in your industrial training, when you are reading books about manufacturing. So it's all about working with machines, as I said. So what is this expectation? Now we have a machine. We need to make sure this machine is utilized 100%. When you say what is utilization, you can't have downtime. You can't have the machine stopped. Why? Because you have paid to the machine, and every day, every minute, every second, the machine is getting depreciated. The machine is getting depreciated. You have to make sure it does not just depreciate without giving the expected value addition. For that, everybody's expectation or the dream or the aspiration is to make sure that machine is utilized 100%. Runs 24/7, at the right speed to optimize the ROI. Right speed is very important. You see a lot of machines today in manufacturing, you see a lot of losses. And for example, we'll say you go, I mean, the operator goes for lunch. And after he comes back from lunch, if it is half an hour, do you think that it will start immediately after 30 minutes and go to the maximum speed? No, it will take a little bit of time to get to the maximum speed. So there is a loss, right? That is where we have to be very careful. The expectation from manufacturing is always to understand, investor think, okay, I have spent money on a machine and I have calculated, okay, ROI, return on investment in 5 years. It has to be 5 years. But in these 5 years, always there's a margin that has been allowed for depreciation, allowed for speed losses, allowed for your breaks, lunch, tea, whatever, shift change, likewise, it has been allowed. With that allowances, finance team does a calculation, okay, ROI will be 5 years. But actually, if you do 24/7 without stopping, it will be much, much less. Maybe in 3 years, you can recover the investment. Then the other thing is about zero defects. Nobody wants manufacturing to produce defects because you're not being paid to produce defects. That is where you call quality has to be assured, quality assurance. Previously, we were in, I think about 20, 30 years back, we were talking about quality controlling. Now we don't, we really talk about quality assurance, not the quality controlling. Assurance means whatever you produce is assured to be 100% as per the consumer requirements. I'm not saying 100% perfect, but whatever you produce should be at the level of acceptance to the consumer, right? So from the perspective of the consumer, it's called a zero defect, but there can be variations. Always any product that you produce has a variance. Nothing is spot on. It's very difficult. In manufacturing, you can't make it 100% perfect. There's a tolerance that is accepted by the consumer. That's okay. Now, for example, let me quote an example from our industry. We manufacture soap. So in that soap, there's something called total fatty matter, TFM. So when we say TFM, okay, baby soap has to have 78 minimum TFM, 78 minimum TFM. So what we do, we make sure that is more than 78, it can be 79, 80, little bit plus or minus, but not below 78. So you keep a tolerance, it is little bit, I mean, towards the consumer's benefit, but we have to maintain that minimum. So that because we can't maintain 78, right? So very important thing is about the zero accidents. So in manufacturing, it's very important that you have to make sure your employees, they come to work healthy, and we as managers, we as leaders have to make sure all our employees get back to their homes, to their families in the same health condition they came to the factory. So that's very important. Right. Then the other thing is about the waste. We all know in any manufacturing process, there is a waste. When you go to a factory, you see a lot of waste, different kind of waste, raw material, packing material, maybe some other things that you see physically getting out from the factory, and maybe the packing, certain corrugated polythene, maybe drums, certain things that are being disposed or maybe sent to the landfilling. There are a lot of things that you see coming out from as waste, even water. Sometimes water, sometimes contaminated, certain things that is being added to the product and being, maybe disposed to the environment. Likewise, you see a lot of waste coming out. So nobody is willing to pay for this waste. Consumer is not going to pay for this waste. So we need to make sure our bill of materials. Bill of material means there is a sort of a composition of a product. There are ingredients going into these compositions. Those are called, that entire composition is called the bill of material. So nobody is willing to add a percentage of waste. We'll say, as I told you previously, we bring down distilled fatty acid for soap, and nobody is willing to say, okay, DFA 0.5% is the waste when you produced 1 ton of soap. Nobody is willing to do it, but apparently, when you do real manufacturing, there's a variance, and we have to make sure we focus on reducing kind of a journey to make sure that waste is not being produced, because nobody is paying for the waste. So now in the current manufacturing setup, as manufacturing people, what do we think? We think our business is good. As I told you previously, we are more or less labor-based. Definitely in Sri Lanka, if you look at, most of the factories are semi-automated. We don't see fully automated. It's very rarely that we see. Cost of labor is in an increasing trend in Sri Lanka and most of these third world countries where the inflation is high. You see the cost of labor is increasing. We are getting our work done, yes. Even within, this COVID time, anyhow, we are getting work done. We provide services to people. We pick them up, drop them, and provide all kind of PCR testing and whatever things, and we get the work done. Then what we do, we finish our all planned projects most probably on time. Then we are delivering for our customers. Customer satisfaction increases every year. We say, okay, last year it was 70, now this year it has gone up to 80. Our customers keep coming back. Of course, now when we produce and sell, if our customers come and take only one time, then next time they won't come, means we will not be able to produce because our inventories won't move, and we see a drop in us. But we see repeat purchases. We see people repeatedly purchase. When we use, we'll say at home, a packet of milk powder. When it finishes, we go and buy the second. So there is a repeat purchase. So this is how the current manufacturing happens. So we say, okay, we kept our consumers, or we have a good retention rate, maybe 4% increase likewise versus last year. So now I was talking about the expectation from manufacturing. Now, what is the reality? What is the reality in manufacturing? Now, machine utilization, as I told you, the expectation is 100%. But today, generally, the machine utilization is somewhere like 75% in most of the industries, but some industries goes up to about 85, 90, which is, we call a kind of a world-class manufacturing, right? So a lot of other reasons for this, as I mentioned, the shift changes, then you have preventive maintenance, breakdowns, speed losses, startup losses, unplanned meetings, power interruptions, absenteeism, and attrition. These matters when it comes to utilization of machines. Quality defects. Now, the aspiration is to make 0 defects, but in the real world, there are defects. There are write-offs. So it's not the same thing that we really plan sometimes. And also, though we like 0 wastage, there is a wastage. Different industries, different percentages, you can see. So the reality is we are not there 100%. So that means we have ample room to improve in manufacturing. So one thing that I want you all to understand here, generally we feel that, okay, I know I've done my best. But when you walk into manufacturing, you will see the numbers don't talk they don't talk about that kind of a performance. You never say world class is 100%. World class is like, I mean, the best in that particular industry. 100% is the perfect scenario. And as I said, the utilization is 100% is the perfect scenario, but it's very difficult to see the perfect scenario. You may see once in a way, but not consistently sustained. So that means there's always ample room for improvement. If you want to get into manufacturing, you have to understand there is room for improvement, and you have to actually understand that reality, right? So again, the last one is about the safety aspect. Either you think, okay, my employees are fully protected, they are really happy about the safety. You see a lot of near misses in factories, a lot of accidents, some companies, some factories, fatal accidents, people die. So that's again another challenge to maintain zero accidents. Now, there's a gap. The gap is the expectation and what is being delivered. That is where the gap. So either we, I mean, believe it or not, when you come to the industry, we all love to talk about world-class manufacturing, best of the quality, 100% safe. Those are really lovely words. But in reality, what do you see? You see these gaps. Now, as executives or leaders, their prime job and the expectation of the management is to minimize this gap. The gap between the current or the reality or the real performance versus the expectation, or we can say world class or perfection, right? So the difference between the expectation and what is being delivered is called the gap. And when you go into any industry, you will see there is a gap. If you don't see a gap, and that means there's nothing to improve. And that means executives, managers, will they have a kind of an opportunity to add value? Because the value addition comes through this input that you're going to give to reduce the gap. If there's no gap, what kind of value addition that we can do? Right? And if we call, the expectation is the perfect scenario, if you call it, right? Then what is closest to the perfection is called the best in class or the world class. Always what is closest to the world class, or sorry, what is closest to the perfection is called the world class or the best in class. So in Sri Lanka, if you look at, most of our industries benchmark best in class or world class, because we know there are organizations, there are manufacturing operations in between us and in between the perfection. So they are in between, they are ahead of us. So they are the world class, they are the best in class, though we have ample room or ample opportunity to improve. And also we have to understand the world class cannot be constant. It has to be continuously improving, because world class doesn't mean it is perfection. If you want to get into the perfection, you have to keep on improving. Even the world class has to get ready or make sure that it continuously improve. Now, you might have heard of Toyota. Toyota practices a lot of, they have a system called Toyota Production System, TPS, based on lean manufacturing. They are one of the best companies who have reduced waste, who have reduced total production cycle time, and a lot of improvements, inventory optimization. Likewise, they have brought in a lot of improvements to their manufacturing, and they are world class in most of the things that they do. But still, they keep on improving. Every day you will find their employees bringing in Kaizen suggestions, improvement suggestions. So that means they are also in this journey of continuous improving, right? So what is next? Now we talk about the gap, we talk about the expectation. So how to bridge this gap? Now, this is a very crucial thing. Now we know there is a gap. And we know there is something called the perfection. We know there's something called the world-class level or the best-in-class level. And we know where we are. In a manufacturing company, in my company, I know where we are. And I know where the best-in-class is also. For example, there's a metrics called OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, right? Some call it efficiency also. Now, world-class level is somewhere like 85 plus, 85 plus. Now, in our factory, right now we are somewhere between 65 to 70. Long way to go. Now, I know where we are. I know where the world-class is, and I know what is the perfection, 100%. Now, the question is how to bridge that gap. Okay. Now, for that, what do you need? You need to have the right team. Right team means the team that you have should be with the right attitude, right skills, and you may have to develop them. That's part of the journey, right? So important thing is having the right attitude and willingness to learn, maybe work as a team. So that is a kind of a important thing. Second thing is need to have the right leadership. You may be the leader or somebody else can be the leader. So there has to be a right leadership who understands world-class level, who understands where we are, who understands how are we going to bridge this gap, who's going to map, who's going to make a blueprint of this. So that is what the leadership is all about. So what kind of a leadership is this we are talking about? What are the characteristics of such a leader? Challenge the status quo. Why do you have to challenge the status quo? Status quo is the current situation because you're not the world class and you're not in the perfection. Then definitely what you're right now doing is not enough. Then you have to challenge the status quo. Some people think, okay, I was talking to you in the first slide, we are doing good. Some people think, okay, we are doing good. Why are we? Why should you bother? Some people think, but you have to understand, you are not at the world class level, you are not at the best or the perfection. That means you have to definitely change. Then for that, you have to challenge the status quo. Always set stretch targets by taking calculated risks. Some people take risks, of course, but you have to make sure the risk has to be taken carefully. You should not take risks to fail. If you take a risk and stretch your target, you should deliver it. You should deliver it. If I say my OEE today is at 65, and if I tell my management, okay, by the end of next year, I will make it 85, I might not definitely go there. Hopefully, I will end up somewhere like 75%, but I know 85 is like world class. I will not be able to do it in 1 year because this company has been doing this or trying this the last 10 to 15 years. But it is a gradual journey and it has to be sustainable. You can't just deliver it, then fail next day. It can't be peaks and valleys. If you improve, you should not come down from that level. For that, you have to have a strong plan, strong team, strong leadership, and the plan has to be really, really workable, right? So it's important to have a stretch target. Don't have some people, as I said, then they're okay. Complacency is there, so 5%, 2% improvement. No way. You should always stretch your target and stretch yourself. And your timing for planning, developing a plan is very important. A plan has to be almost perfect. You have to look at all options when you do the plan. If you fail to plan, that means you're planning to fail. So your plan has to be given a reasonable time. And you have to make sure you meet deadlines. Procrastination is the word that is going against this. Most of us today try to procrastinate. Kaldana. Can't do it today. So this is going to be a deadly thing because time is not going to stop for you. No. So deadlines are deadlines. If you say, I will complete this by 31st July, that's it. You can't come back and say, are you COVID? Now how can I do it? That's not going to work. Right? So you have to make sure your deadlines are met. Then a very, very, very important thing is about your fear of failure. I have about a 3 minutes video at the end. What is this all about? Most of us don't take risks because we fear to fail. වැඩේ අප්සෙට් ගියොත් එහෙම සෞත්තුව වැඩේ අප්සෙට් ගියොත් එහෙම ටීම් එකේ මිනිස්සු හිතයි අයියෝ this fellow is a nut or a crack and my boss also will think what the hell man, you could not deliver, right? So most of us are really having this kind of a problem within us. We don't want to take risk. That's why we come into a sort of a situation where our mindset becomes very complacent. Complacency can develop when you don't take the risk. Why don't you take the risk? Because you fear to fail. You feel I am going to commit 15% OE improvement for this year and make a from day one. I'm fearing and fail way. Now I have to go and correct. Tell my boss 15 we'll make it 10%. 15. So this is a very important barrier, hurdle that we have to definitely overcome. Don't fear to fail because failure is a learning point, right? Okay. So every executive is a leader. Generally in a manufacturing organization, you all will enter the organization as executives. And therefore you will be a leader. You will have a lot of people looking up to you. Machine operator, helper, maybe mechanic, a lot of people below your level look up to you to learn, to understand. You make a status quo challenge. Easy questioning. Why not the other way around? Is he giving us stretch target? Is he supporting us to achieve those stretch targets? Is he planning? Plan is he meeting deadlines? Is he telling us to meet deadlines? Deadline meet very important. Is he telling us? And is he taking risks? So your team always look up to you to see whether you behave as a leader. To understand these characteristics are quite important to earn respect. We'll talk about it later in a different slide. Right, goals for the leader now. When you are a leader and there are certain goals, right? Now your employees, they have their opportunities. For example, more Kaizen suggestions and more rewards. When you tell your employees, suggestions are again in the yojana are again and you better suggest, then you will get rewarded, improvement. So that's an opportunity for your employees. Then out of the book suggestions, you will get a CEO's award. Now our company, we have a group of companies. Hema's group has a CEO's award annually, and that's an award, a fantastic award in front of about 1,000 executives, managers. You get recognized with a CEO's award. Only one award is given. So if your Kaizen suggestion is a fantastic one, giving a great improvement, so you will get a CEO's award. There's an opportunity for employees for that as well. Now in this COVID mindset, there's a problem. Okay, will I get infected? Now in most of the factories, still the employees have not got the this whatever the injection, or they have not been. I mean, it's 30 to 60. Still, these companies are yet to get this vaccine, right? So there is a doubt in the employee's mind. Can I come to work? What will happen if somebody comes with it, and if I get infected, my family, right? There's a problem like that. Then some employees are getting a lot of training opportunities, lean manufacturing, maybe TPM, maybe different other kind of trainings that we provided to employees, right? On the other hand, you have the business priorities. Every business has priorities, right? So customer satisfaction is one critical thing. We have to have a kind of a target to improve it year on year, at least some percentage, and maintain the growth, profitability growth, top line sales growth, reduce manufacturing cost. Of course, though there is an inflation, we know there's an inflation. We actually spoke about it. Everybody is expecting increments every year, and that will increase the manufacturing cost. So what is going to make this reduction, reducing manufacturing cost? That's a business priority. So then initiative, partnership with third-party organizations, we have different suppliers. Most of the companies, they have suppliers. But a supplier have to have a good relationship, because you don't want to have kind of obstacles or kind of disturbances to your supply chain. So your suppliers, your transporters, maybe your freight forwarders, you have to have that relationship. So business priorities, employee opportunities are samahara velata you see doesn't get aligned. So it's a goal for the leader to make sure that the business priorities at the employee opportunities match karadan. You have to match these. Otherwise, you can't get the team together to run towards a common set of goals. Okay. So there are two areas that I'm going to talk about this leader's role. First, as a role model. Now, previously we spoke about some characteristics. Now I'm going to talk about what a leader is, has to be like as a role model. That means your team members, or those who are reporting to you, or those who are below you, should learn or should follow you, or should think, okay, I'm boss. What? Earn respect. Now, if you want to be a good leader, you have to earn respect. How do you earn respect? First, you have to always be a kind of an example, especially in discipline. If you are in a factory or manufacturing, the leader can't come at 8, 5. Can't. You can never. Now, in my organization, we start at 8 o'clock. I go to the factory at 7:30 and have my breakfast, and I'm in my seat by 8. Well before 8. So that is something that you have to do to earn respect. Then they think, okay, my goodness, she's there at 8 o'clock. Right? And you have to speak truth always. Build confidence in the team members. Now, in your team, they should feel, okay, whenever you talk about a target, whenever you talk about something that to be done, they should feel confidence. Okay, we can do it. Because he is the leader, he talks what we can do. So that building confidence in your team is very important as a leader. Keep the morale high. Now, these days, very challenging when you have COVID infection. 1 or 2 guys get infected, the others' morale goes down like nothing. So you have to make sure that the morale is up. Talk to people, energize them. Flow like a sportsman. The sports don't worry, we are with you. Likewise, you have to keep their morale up. Celebrate small wins. Always, if somebody comes with a good deed, some kind of a good thing, always celebrate. Okay, cut a cake. Okay, superb certificate. Then wish him, put him on a kind of a podium and say he's the best guy of this particular month. Likewise, you have to always celebrate these small wins and keep this morale and their motivation up, right? And the other thing is, make sure you plant your footprints. If you're a leader, if you're a charismatic leader, you can't be a follower of somebody who actually has stronger footprints. That means your footprints get just faded away, like what you do when you walk on a beach. කකුල් අඩි ඊළඟ වෙරළේ වතුර පාරනකොටම මැකිලා යනවා වගේ. It can't happen. You have to have your charisma where people respect you and people talk about you. That is what you call a kind of a role model. Walk the talk. Don't talk anything that you don't do. Don't ever talk. සමහරු කතා කරනවා, but you never ever do. So as I said, if you want employees to be behind the machines by 8, you have to be actually at least 5-10 minutes before in the flow. That is what you call walk the talk. Always set an example. That's important. So now the leader's role, there's another part as a decision maker. Now you're going to make certain decisions on behalf of your team, on behalf of your organization. To make good decisions, you have to have some experience. You have to. Because you're working with different level of people in an organization. You have to understand people. Because you are going to make this decision on behalf of your organization and the people, and maybe about the investors. They also depend on your decisions sometimes. So you have to have a good experience working with different level of people. And different kind of people have their different priorities. When you talk to your team, they will have different priorities. Maybe today someone might say, I have to go early, sir, because my mother is not well. One guy will say, I have a wedding today. So you have a target to accomplish, but these 2-3 guys say they have their different priorities. So how are we going to manage this? And you have to deliver certain things. So working with individuals who have different priorities is very important. Your experience is important. Then only you will understand, okay, this situation, how am I going to manage it? Right? And gain through failures and pitfalls in a journey. The experience that you have gained through failures, that is what I call conquer fear of failure. There is a kind of a thing that you learn. There is something that you learn, and you will definitely make sure that that mistake you will not do again. From the failure you learn, right? So, and that because you are going towards a journey to become a world-class manufacturing, so you will have a lot of pitfalls, a lot of failures in your journey. But you can't just think about I lost, I failed. You can't just keep on thinking, or you just forget, or you just ignore taking decisions because I might fail. Then how are you going to get into the world-class level? How are you going to go that journey, right? Every company who has gone through this journey will have 1,001 things to talk about failures. One of the great leaders in Sri Lanka, actually I don't want to call the name, we asked him in a seminar, okay, so can you talk about your achievements? He said, it's not much. I have only about 1 A4 sheet of achievements. Then we asked, okay, sir, did you have any failures? Talk about it. I have about a book, 80 pages, the failures that I have faced. He is one of the best leaders who was in the private sector sometimes back. Genius guy. I don't want to talk about his name and all, but this is how he has become one of the best leaders in the country in the private sector. right? Then the other thing is you have to gain, or you have to earn victories navigating similar different projects. Now, there are projects that you are taking when you are in your internship, you are being sometimes given projects to do. In 6 months, sometimes you do it. In your sort of a career, you get projects. And you have to navigate those projects and gain experience. There are similar things. Sometimes you get a similar kind of a project in the next year also. So you get that experience in the last year, which you can really utilize it in the next year. That is what you call, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. When you have a learning, definitely you can use that knowledge in the next similar project. Right? Then to counter the barrier and capitalize on opportunities. Now, when you have countered barriers in your past, whatever the experience that you have, that helps you to capitalize on the opportunities. Because when you encounter something, you look at, okay, what are my barriers? What are the opportunities that I have? So the barriers that you have faced previously can be similar to what you see today even. So the experience bit is really, really going to help you to make right decisions. So all of these things are based on your experience. The decisions that you're going to make matters a lot, and the decision depends a lot on your experience. So apart from that, you have to make sure that you listen. You have to listen. You should not hear. Some people shows that they listen, but they just hear. අහගෙන ඉන්නෝනේ ඇහිලා වැඩක් නැහැ. අහගෙන ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ your mind has to be there, not only your body. Because when you listen only, you understand, okay, what has gone wrong, what we should be doing. When you manage a team, you should always listen. You have to be intelligent. That is being helped through your academic life, your degrees, whatever has helped you to improve your intelligence. Then you have to be very creative. You have to be very, very creative. Because if you think, as I said, to be or to become a charismatic leader who has the ability to sort of make sure that your footprint is not being erased, you have to be really creative, right? Then the other thing is always you have to make decisions based on facts. Don't go by gut feelings alone. Some people think, "Ayyo, mata hitana me vidiyata tamai." Always in management or in manufacturing, decisions are supposed to be taken through facts. If you don't have facts, that's going to make your life quite difficult. That's why we refer always last year performance. Those are the facts. Based on last year performance, we set our this year targets and goals. So it's always based on facts. Right, your challenges. What you should do once you step into the industry. Now, these two slides I'm going to talk about. What you should do and what you should not do. Two things. What you should do and what you should not do. Right? So understand the ground reality versus what you thought. Now, when you get into the industry, you have a mindset. Now, I will say one of you are coming to the HEMAS. When you come into HEMAS, you go through the website, understand our products, this and that, a lot of things about our, maybe go through our profit and losses, we have an annual report. But that is what you thought, what you know. But when you get into the factory, you understand the reality. Now there is a ground reality which is not being spoken through the annual report. Not being taught, actually spoken in a website. So that ground reality versus your thoughts, you have to understand the difference. And what are your priorities and business priorities? And you, as a kind of, I will say, an entrant into the industry, as a management trainee or as an executive, you have your priorities. And the business also has its priorities. You have to make sure you understand what is your priorities, what are your priorities, and what are the business priorities. How do you maximize your academic knowledge to get aligned with business priority? This is very crucial, because if you don't use your academic knowledge, or if you don't sort of translate that knowledge into an industrial kind of a environment, you will not sometimes understand how to achieve these business priorities. It is important you understand how to prioritize your goals, aligning with the company goals. Then only you can make your team align with the organization goals. Otherwise, it's difficult. If your priorities are different and if the company's priorities are poles apart, and your team will, they don't know where to go. So important that you understand it. Right, then what are the opportunities that I have which will help me to get well accepted? Now, when you get into an industry as an incumbent or as a new person, you should get accepted. No, accept නැත්තම් වැඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක්. දැන් ඔය ඇන්ටිජන් නෙමෙයි මොකද ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් එක ගහද්දී අපේ සමහර අයට ඒක අප්සෙට් ගිහිල්ලා ඔය නැති වෙනවා, කලන්තේ හැදෙනවා. කියන්නේ බොඩි එකෙන් රිජෙක්ට් කරනවා. So this can't happen when you get into the industry. People should not reject. How are you going to do it? So you should understand what is the culture in the organization, how are the people. That's why I said you have to listen. Listening is very important, right? So what should I give up to fast track my journey? Most of us don't focus it, unlearn. Whatever you learn, everything that you learn in academic life is not going to be applicable in the industry. You may have to unlearn certain things and learn certain things from the industry. If you try and put all whatever the things that you learned in your academic life and try to change the organization, it will be a kind of a boomerang. It will come back to you in a very negative way. So you have to understand, okay, mama monada metana kala yutte nokala yutte. What should I use and what should I forget? That is what you call unlearning. So anything that you should unlearn, you have to understand what you should unlearn. You have to prioritize it, unlearn, right? Then there's a very important thing for a leader. You should understand there is a knowledge gap between you and your team. University you talk to your colleagues in one language, and if you say one thing, everybody understands, but understand that it is not there in the industry, because you will find people who have learned only up to O level, A level, nothing technical level karana, samaharu no level nothing. So don't expect them to understand your language. You have to get into their shoes. You have to be flexible. Right? It is very important. I've seen some of the executives, they feel fed up because that is very important. Acceptance, earn respect, if they understand you, if they understand what you talk, right? So those are the do's. And let's look at the don'ts. Right? Don't ever. This is also something most of you all do. Then university can get again. But that is a big mistake. Don't ever do it. Every organization is different to the others. Every organization gives different experience than the other. So don't ever go and talk to your colleague. Salary is not the only thing that you're going to gain from the industry. The experience of working with people, the experience of working with peers, your supervisors, the culture of the organization, the products. There are a lot of opportunities that you don't see in the other organization because you're not working there. Just don't compare. Just don't compare, right? I know better and nothing much to learn from. Some people think, okay, I know better. What the hell? Monada me company minisut and kisi de done me O pass. Don't think like that, because there are enough low-hanging fruits. low hanging fruits are there in organization. That means you can easily perform, easily sort of make use of, right? Then that will be your sort of the journey of improving or cultivating confidence in you. When you perform, your confidence level goes up. So make sure that you have a lot to learn. You understand, you try to read in between line and understand, okay, these are the things that I can really learn and make sure that I perform, right? I can perform even without the support of some people. Think, okay, I can perform. Why should I need my team support? Don't ever think like that. You will get a lot of information from shop floor level, which you never ever think of, right? So the other thing is, as I said, you have to get aligned with the organizational goals. You can't say, I will achieve my goals at the expense of my company goals. That is not going to be, your goals and company goals can't fall apart. Then some people think, why should I perform certain tasks which are not in my scope? Why should I do? Never ever do that. Whenever you have an opportunity to perform something, that will help you to understand a lot. It is something like multitasking. You can manage multiple tasks, means you will be able to become a MD one day if you know all aspects of an organization. Because you can't say, I'm a finance guy, I'm doing only finance. Why should I look at procurement things? Why should I worry about sales? Don't ever think about things like that. Whenever there's an opportunity in any other different department to learn something, make sure that you try and learn. So the last slide, I will the other thing is about the patience. You have to be very patient. Don't be impatient. Okay, I should get a promotion. Why didn't I get it? Be patient. Always try to learn, try to sort of gather experience. Don't ever think, okay, other mama company manager. I want to be a director. You can, but what is in your sort of bag as experience, working with people, working with problems, that matters a lot for decision making. Decision making only the harita balapano. So be patient always. You should stretch yourself for sure. You should fast track, but it doesn't mean you are going to be impatient. You have to learn as much as possible. That helps you to make decisions. So the last thing, now this is a different kind of a thing. Now we all talk about our professional life, career best, my whatever, my kind of achievements. Now get the best out of what you invest. Now you're investing a lot, now your time, your money, maybe, or whatever, the learn things you are going to invest in an organization. So for that, you have to make sure that you give the best to take the best. Don't ever think that you have to get the best first. Give and take. You can't take and give. And job company never pay your salary in advance, right? First month you work, then only you get the salary. So it's all about give and take, not the other way around. It won't work. Second thing, always keep in mind to pay gratitude. That's very important. Most of us forget this. To say thank you. The gratitude. If you learn something, you have to pay gratitude. Now, most of you all studied in a government university. ඔය පඩියට ඔයගලන්ගේ ලෙක්චරර්ස් ලගේ ඊට අමතරව ඔයගලන්ගේ ෆැසිලිටිස් ඔක්කොට මේ රටේ දුප්පත් මිනිස්සු හැම එක්කෙනාම ටැක්ස් එකක් ගෙවුවා. So I don't know how far you can pay back. I also studied in one of the government universities. I feel till my death I will not be able to pay that back. That's my attitude. So I always try to pay my gratitude to those who have paid to bring me up to this level. I have studied, that's true, but if this university was not there, if this university didn't host me, I wouldn't have made it. I can't go to foreign university to sort of make that thing happen. I can't go to Cambridge, Oxford. Can I go? I can't afford. Luckily, these people paid the taxes for me. Now I'm a director. Yeah, I'm a director. But who is behind my success? Please keep that in mind. If you don't have gratitude, you will not have a peaceful death. අපි ඔක්කොම මැරෙන්න එපා. කවදාවත් අපිට හිතේ සන්තෝෂයෙන් මැරෙන්න වෙන්නේ if you don't have it. Always make sure that you have this quality in your mind. Be simple and accept the wrong situation. Always be simple. Don't be sort of some people arrogance. I'm a director, I'm a manager. These buggers they are just machine operators. That arrogance you should not have. Right? You have to be very simple. Always believe that you need to be replaced with a better resource. So this is very important, my dear students. And as a professional, I'm talking to you not for money. Because I believe I should be replaced with a better resource. Mama, mage ilanga level leka or my successors, I have to develop them. And I have to develop them to replace me and do a better job than me. මට වඩා හොඳ කෙනෙක්ව මෙතන ගෙනල්ලා ඉඳවන්න I should work. That's a way of paying gratitude. And that is a way of you are doing your best to the organization to take it to the world-class level. Understand? So you have to develop your next level. Very important. සමහර මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා ඊළඟ මිනිස්සුන්ව develop කරන්න. they think okay මේ මිනිස්සුන්ව develop කරොත් මට මාර threat එකක්. So don't ever do that. Right. The last thing is very, very, very important. I know none of us, including myself, has achieved this. The greatest rewards come when you give of yourself. It's about bettering the lives of others, being part of something bigger than yourself, and making positive. I will show you one simple photograph. None of us have done this for sure. This is the photograph. You know what? So let's look at these 3 minutes. Let's watch this 3 minutes video. Let's think about this, the person behind this. And this is all about, as I told you, how are you going to make sure that you conquer the fear of failure? Right. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I would like to take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weerabahu, for that very inspiring message. I'm sure our students must be, like, entire audience must be having some questions. We have time for a few questions. Please, Mr. Weerabahu, I'm sure that some questions will come. Until we get some questions from the audience, let me ask one now. The last video, which was very inspiring, the conquering the fear of failure.
It would have been much better. I'm sorry, the sound. I think my computer has a problem, I believe.
That's fine. Yeah, it's perfectly okay. It gave us the message anyway. Yeah. So if we are to kind of connect this message with, like our majority being it's going to be fresh graduates stepping into industry, they may also have to prove themselves in the new environment, how good they are, and also they have this inspiration of not to be demotivated by failures. So how do they find the right balance? I mean, what to do and what not should they be trying to do with this kind of two decisions that they're going to take?
Yeah, so that's a kind of, I think, an important question, Prasan. I believe basically, as I told you, I mean, in the presentation, I was just talking about, I mean, getting the acceptance of people, right? So this is very crucial. Now, when you step into an organization, first thing is, okay, you feel, okay, I should, I mean, when you sort of confront a person, I mean, first thing you do is smile. So that person will definitely look at you as a kind of an alien or somebody, a stranger who has come in, walked in, because in the shop floor level, there's a lot and people may not recognize you. So, but you should always understand, I mean, the date that you may have walked into the university, may have walked into a school. We'll say some people go from grade 5 scholarship to a new school from O levels, and you walk in, you feel a bit uncomfortable. That uncomfortableness or uncomfort or the discomfort is definitely there when you walk into an organization as a new person. I mean, how am I going to get accepted? So this is something that I mean, everybody has to confront, and always you have to make sure that you're the new person. So you have to, as I said, first you have to give something, then you will get it. You smile, then the people will definitely start smiling at you. You have to get to know people, understand their rhythm, understand their kind of values, ethics, because most of the companies, we talk about KPIs. KPIs are very much visible, but that is the tip of the iceberg. The bottom is about the attitude, the culture of the organization, values and ethics. So those are the things that a new graduate or a management trainee who comes in has to understand first. That will make him comfortable to take whatever the risk or whatever the level of risk that he should be taking. Or else, the thing is, if you have a different, as I said, you're kind of thinking about an organization and the reality, that has a definite difference that you have to understand. So, I mean, in our organization, what I do is I speak to these young, whoever the interns, and generally I have asked my managers, take at least 1 hour a week to talk to them and coach them, guide them, because it's important to coach and guide new people, because sometimes you feel really frustrated if you fail, or if you don't if you can't achieve something in a given timeline, you feel a little bit frustrated. And that may not be because of your fault, that may be because of the team's fault. Team may not be supporting you, this and that. So those things can frustrate you. Because of that, we as leaders generally should coach and guide these youngsters to understand what the culture, how you should get people aligned, and there are certain tips that we can give them That's an important thing the management should always look at.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Weerabahu. Like from the manager's perspective, yes, I do agree. We still have questions for.
Prasanna, shall I go one
Yeah,
question?
please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chandana, for your excellent presentation. Sorry, I couldn't join at the beginning. I had another quick engagement.
Right, doctor.
So
yeah, that's okay.
I just listened to most of the latter part of the talk, and especially I'm very happy that you try to convey some of the ethics also while they are grooming up at the initial stages. So when it comes to this coaching of youngsters who join the industry, now how you can basically you have to read them up to a certain extent before you go into coach them, as far as I feel. So are you going to start it at the beginning, or you give some time for them to adjust it and then you study them as well and then go for this? How you approach them basically as a senior director?
Yeah, Doctor, now what I do is generally the day when I speak to them one-on-one, basically to make them comfortable, because when the director talks to them, I mean, you can make the environment a little bit comfortable for them to move around. Like, I mean, you feel comfortable. Yeah, the director also spoke to me. And I generally, as I said, my style is that I actually sort of my intention is to make sure that they replace us with a better kind of a performance level. So I always look at, I mean, grooming them up to the level that is far ahead of us. So I mean that is where the trick is. I mean, you have to make sure that the leader, the topmost leader, if you can make the incumbent comfortable, I mean, that will gain a lot of confidence in the entrant. I think that's something that I have seen in most of the cases when I take in people, when the factory gets new recruits. First day I anyhow speak to them 1 hour at least. That makes them quite comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
Question. So let me meanwhile let me ask you another question, which can be full of our students, I'm sure. Now we talked about this perfectness and the world-class performance, and you gave the example from Toyota. Although they've been already like world-class, being the giant in the automobile industry, they still seek this perfection. Like every day they think they are not the best, and they will keep doing continuous improvement. So this is at an organizational level. So how useful do you think that kind of thinking at an individual level, as our young professionals, how useful of this thinking at an individual level?
That's the most important thing, Prasanna, for a person to keep on improving, because when I sometimes when I actually talk to university undergraduates during their internship, also what we feel is there's a bit of a I feel like a kind of a misunderstanding or a maybe misjudgment that I mean you can sort of apply most of the things that you studied as it is, and maybe the expectations are the results to come quite faster, which is not the case in the industry, because what you invest will not get result in that speed. Because as you know, in a company, when you invest, especially in people, you don't expect them to become like mushrooms today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow to become leaders. It'll take time. So that misunderstanding is something that we have to learn from these kind of companies, where they have taken quite a long time to come up to the level and sustain. You can come up, but how are you going to sustain? That bit, I think, quite important for the students to understand, read about Toyota. There are a lot of books about Toyota. How did they come to this level and sustaining it? Didn't happen overnight. Same here. For us also, you will not be able to come to that level and sustain in a it's kind of a fortnight. It will take quite a long time. And that is the reality. That is where the reality is. So we have to accept the reality. We have to be simple to accept without being arrogant. I got a first class, I'm a genius of this, but it doesn't matter. That is at your academic life. But industry is completely different. As I said, but I mean, you have to work with different levels of different kind of people. So they will not understand your language. So that is where we need to be quite humble, get into their shoes and try to understand that culture, the way that they sometimes speak, the way that they think, I mean, they are.
Yeah, I think that was a very strong message. Like while keeping the right level of confidence, you also got to makes yourself humble enough to move with the rest of the crowd. So that itself will give you opportunities to grow. I guess that's a quite strong message. We still have time for a few questions.
May I?
Please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the interesting presentation. I wish I had go through this before I joined the industry. So actually I would like to ask, so staying relevant is also very important, as I feel. So what would be your advice in that? How should a fresh graduate look into that path, and how should it kind of plan? It should be planned, in a way that is useful to the industry and as well as the individual.
Yeah, okay, Tilini. So basically, I mean, as you know, I mean, you're talking about a fresh graduate. I mean, none of these executives or managers, directors have come from a different world.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have come from these universities in Sri Lanka. Most of them, I think, if you look at an entire kind of the population in a company, majority has not even cited a university,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they are from Sri Lanka. And you will see managers who have not cited universities, but they have done their degrees in different other ways. So, I mean, it's not a different world. It's a kind of a subset in the same society. So the people inside, they understand. They understand you and they understand your mindset. So that will be one plus point. Now, if you go to a different country and start working, yeah, I think it will be quite different, your language and kind of things, a culture and all those things. But here, I mean, people definitely welcome you. Only thing is they want to feel something different. What kind of a value addition that you can bring in? So you should not, at any given cost, you should not restrict yourself. Okay, this is right, this is wrong. There's nothing called right or wrong. You can always throw your ideas. Okay, this is what I feel. This is what I believe. So you have to speak out. That will be, because now in our companies, we do programs called future leadership development. Yeah, what we do is we recruit people from different kind of, I would say, disciplines, and get them to speak out, brainstorm, and put their ideas, and then take what would be the best way. So it's always better that you just don't have a sort of a preset mind. Okay, will this be accepted? Will this be rejected? It is not, because it will sort of have some kind of a barrier within yourself. Even in the future, in a bigger forum like a management meeting or something, you will feel, okay, why should I talk? I mean, it can be wrong. Somebody will laugh at me. It's not the case. See, you will see a lot of good brainstorming happening in organizations, and you get the best out of that brainstorming. So there you have to have an open mind. You will definitely have a kind of a different thought coming in, because I mean, that's why we always call you to inject new blood into the system, to the organizations. So it will be definitely taken with a positive note. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cindy, for that question. Any other questions from the audience?
Yes, sir, I have one.
Please.
So I don't know if my question is relevant or not, but I decided to ask anyways. So I hear from many people and myself as a female in this kind of field, a lot of people struggle to get jobs in kind of like manufacturing or mechanical or any kind of this kind of field in the industry. So I was just wondering, why is that? Or like, can you just give me your insight in about this field, like this topic?
Right. I thought it is sort of quite a, I would say, few generations back, this would have been a question. But let me tell you, if you look at our factory today, we are a 24/7 operating factory, 2 shifts, 12-hour shifts, 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, 8 in the evening to next day morning. We have almost like 400 employees. You will not believe, 60% female. They're doing day shift, night shift, right? And our CEO is a lady. Group Chief Executive Officer is a lady. You might have heard of Kasturi Wilson Chellaraja. You might have heard of her. And in our leadership team, that is in our directors, out of 10, 6 are ladies. So there's no, I think there is a gender imbalance in the other way around in our company, right? There's nothing like that. And as I said, I don't think you should have that kind of, even when I last year, I got about 15 undergraduates as interns from University of Moratuwa, Chemical and Process Engineering. Out of 15, 12 were girls. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Your gender doesn't matter, because as far as you are focused, you're capable, you are performing, I mean, that's what an organization wants. I hope I have cleared your doubts about it.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering to know your insight of this matter.
Thanks, Smita, for that question. So,
Yes, sir.
we do have maybe a few more questions. One more questions.
So I have a question.
Yes, Ramindu, please.
Actually, I must thank Mr. Chandana for this.
Ramindu, is it possible for you to increase your volume a bit, the microphone? We can hardly hear you.
Can you hear now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Actually, I will go to the question directly, because there is time limited, I think. This is, I think, actually a practical question, but this is in my head for a long time. Actually, when we go to a company as a fresh graduate, there may be some kind of situations that level workers or employees can ask some questions about some technical aspects. In some situation, I may not know about it for a reason. So how in that situation we faced it, because there may be some kind of not accepting situation if we do not answer that question. So how to handle that kind of situation?
If I heard you properly, you wanted to know if technical questions are asked about, which are really about the technical aspects of the manufacturing and those kind of things that you all don't know. How are you going to sort of answer those? Is that the question, Ravindu? I just
Yes, Mr. Chandana. That's the
right,
question.
right. Okay. So, well, that's a very, I would say, tricky question. If I am the interviewer, I should know who you are because you're sending me the CV. In your CV, you give your all kind of sort of experience, your background, your personal background, sometimes your expectations, where you are strong. So those things are given. Now, if you don't mention anything about your technical knowledge, about, we'll say, OE calculation or a TPM implementation or kind of a root cause analysis, something like that, I can ask that question to sort of see whether you are going to answer genuinely. You can always say, I have not got exposed to that. But sometimes you can struggle and try to say something else because it's something, Ravindu, you have to understand. When a question of that nature is asked, one thing you should always answer in a very, I would say, a very confident way. You should not have doubts when giving answers because you know you don't know that. You can easily say, we have not got exposed to it, and I am yet to learn it. Because everybody is learning some things every day. So you can't expect a fresh graduate to know a lot of technical stuff that happens at factory level. But again, how are you going to answer that? You should not be worried asking that question, but you have to make sure that you pass the message that I have not done it or I have not got that experience or exposure. That is your confidence. But you try to defend yourself. Oh my goodness, I should have known something about it. That's not the answer expected by the interviewer. He wants to know sometimes if a difficult question is thrown at you, how confident that you're going to answer it. Never mind the answer. It can be in favor of, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. But how confident? Because in most of the cases, even in an organization, you will have to tell this. Even in the management meetings, even directors say, I actually don't know about this. I have to look into this. I may have to come back to you. I have to check on this. There are a lot of incidents that we also table things like this. We can't tell everything in the forums. Sometimes we don't know. And you have to say that you don't know. It's all about your confidence level. So don't worry. If something is asked which you can't answer, which you don't know, you straight away say, I've not got the competency or I don't have that knowledge. But you have enough pluses in your CV which you can talk about. Okay, Ravindu?
Actually, Mr. Chandana, that is not the I expect. My question is in the lower level, when we take somewhat like operators, so when they ask some that kind of question, if I gave that I don't know about it, I will tell you sometime, another time. Will that be a effect for the respect to us? Because next time they don't, they may not hear about our things.
That means you mean when you recruit the operator, is it?
No, where now as fresh graduates,
Yeah.
we have, I think, a lot of relations with lower level operators, assembly lines workers, some kind of. So when there are some kind of that kind of question, if I give that kind of answer, isn't that affect for respect? It's actually not respect.
Mr. Weerabahu, I think I may clarify what the question is. Ravindu, I think what you mean to say is like you walk in the factory floor, then a member who's junior to you now asking a very particular technical question. So maybe to test you, or maybe he wants the real answer that he doesn't know, or probably that is just to test you. So how to handle such situation? You being a new engineer, and you with the label of engineer, asking a junior person asking you a question. How, if you don't know the answer, how best to handle it? I think that is Ramindu's question.
Yes, yes.
Right, clear, Ramindu. I think that's a fair question to ask. So this can happen. This will definitely happen to most of the new graduates who are coming in and walking in the factory floor. And there are operators who have worked for 25 years who knows end to end about the manufacturing, about the machine and this and that. But what you should understand is, okay, you will have to learn from them as well, because you can't, as I said, you should not be reinventing the wheel. You should not be sitting behind a machine and sort of dismantling it and fixing it. No. But you can learn from them. You have to learn from them. There are people, of course, different kind of attitudes. There are people who would not like to see, okay, graduates coming in and giving instructions. They don't know, they are very young. Sometimes some of these operators are like your father's age, right? You are maybe 25, he is 50 years. I mean, he feels embarrassing calling you Mahatyari Sahari. So those things happen in the industry. So those are the areas, I mean, we have to be smarter, where we have to be very humble and nimble. Talk to him, I mean, smile with him. I mean, people, they all, or what they expect is kind of a recognition. At the shop floor level, ගණන් ගත්තේ නැතු වුණාම තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ එන්නේ. යන ගම කොහමද මේ ඔයා කොහමද අපි තුමු රවි කියලා රවි කොහමද ඊයේ වැඩ කොහමද අවුට්පුට් එක කොහමද ගෙදර කොහමද තත්ත්වය අද උදේ කෑවේ මොනවද. So you have to get sort of that is kind of a PR that you have to build with these people, because they are I mean, they are not at your level. They can't think what you think, and they will feel little bit uncomfortable when a new person come and give instructions. It has happened to me so many times, and it has happened to my managers, young graduates whom I have recruited. It has happened. They have come and told me, it's very difficult. These buggers are not respecting, they are not sharing knowledge. So these are the barriers that we as leaders should understand how to tackle. We should be very patient. Second thing, you have to be very humble. Be kind of a person, okay, ground level, operator, you talk, smile, because I mean, you can't be arrogant. You can't sort of confront. So those are challenges, Ravindu, in industries, but don't feel uncomfortable. You're not doing anything wrong, anything unethical. If you have to learn from somebody who is smaller, I don't know whether you're a Buddhist or not. හාමුදුරු නමක් මේ රාහුල හාමුදුරන්ගෙන් මේ ඉගෙන ගත්තා. මේ සිවුර බිම ගෑවි ගෑවෙනකොට රාහුල හාමුදුරු බුදුහාමුදුරන්ගේ බෝසත්යන් පුතා ඉගෙන ගත්තා. So you should not be arrogant. You have to learn, and you have to get it anyhow. The best way is to be friendly, talk nicely, be humble, smile. So that challenge will be there. That is for sure. Whenever you walk into a new organization, one or two guys will be like that. They are nasty people. But everybody has a good side and a bad side. We should not harp on bad side. I mean, you should know that these people have good qualities, sometimes good knowledge. So you have to focus on that particular strength of that person and try to maximize on that. Forget about his weaknesses. Okay.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Thanks, sir. Thanks,
Yes.
for the question. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I think with this we can come to an end, Mr. Weerabahu. I should appreciate you taking time, and today we could go into some very sensitive ends of this profession. That was quite helpful. So with that, before delivering the formal vote of thanks, I would invite Dr. Asela to deliver the token of appreciation. We do have the formal mechanism. Dr. Asela.
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna. So thank you very much, Mr. Weerabahu. So we are very much happy about your contribution, and I hope that in future also we'll be able to get your valuable services. So thank you very much. So It's great pleasure to see you in this forum first time, but we hope that in future you will be able to help us in different ways. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Smriti will now deliver the word of thanks.
Yes, sir. So on behalf of the Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering department, I would like to express my gratitude for taking your valuable time and sharing your knowledge with us today. Thank you very much, sir, for your very informative presentation. You provided us with some very helpful tips and advice, and some of the information that you shared today was eye-opening, especially coming from a very well-established person like yourself from the industry. I'm sure these tips would have helped our students and our fresh graduates and all our other participants. Thank you so much, sir, once again. I also would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the organizing team for arranging this successful webinar. And I also would like to thank all the participants for joining today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks. With that, we will conclude the session. Have a nice evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Asila Prasanna and the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weerabahu.
Yeah.